Children, here on the interactive flat board and also interactive flat panel, we are observing Nischals, that is lens 3D application. Now I am operating cell structure, and on the interactive flat panel, children, you are observing, now you are observing 3D model of a cell. So here it is a beautiful cell diagram, and there you see the pens of plasma membrane, that is the outer layer, and inside the plasma membrane, and you are observing a clear nucleus, and that nucleus is having around the nucleus you are observing the presence of ER, endoplasmic reticulum. So they are just like tube-like structure and they are sac-like structure, and there you see the presence of lumen, and at the center you are observing, yes, you are observing the nucleoli, and also thread-like structures are present many, and these thread-like structures are called as chromatin, chromosomes. So here you are observing chromosome, also nucleus. Again you are observing presence of endoplasmic reticulum. So this is a cell, and in the cell you are observing the presence of a viscous jelly-like substance, and that is called as cytoplasm. So here on the interactive flat panel channel, you are observing cell structure and also different types of cell organelles also present here. Again, now I am operating another one, that is prokaryotic cell. So already we discussed what is a prokaryotic cell and what are the characteristic features generally we observe in case of prokaryotic cell. Example, this is a bacterial cell, and you are observing the presence of a flagellum, and this flagellum is a locomotory organ. With the help of the flagellum, bacteria perform movement. It is a locomotory organ, and it is having a thick rigid wall, and it looks like a capsule, and that is called as cell wall, and this cell wall is made up of proteins, and it provides protection to the cell, and below the cell wall, and there you see the presence of another membrane, and that membrane is called as a plasma membrane, and it acts as a semi permeable membrane, and here you are observing a thick and also jelly-like substance in the cell, in prokaryotic cell, and that is called as cytoplasm. And here there is no a special, that is a well developed nucleus, a well defined nucleus is absent, but it is having a single chromosome, that is called as a nucleotide, and like that. So here we discuss, so what is a prokaryotic cell and what are the parts in a prokaryotic cell. So children, on the interactive flat panel, you are observing prokaryotic cell and capsule, and you see depends on nuclei, and also flagellum. So these are the parts which we are observing in case of prokaryotic cell. Here on the interactive flat panel, you are observing there are 5 questions are there, and these questions are called as in-text question. We need to write answers for these questions. So 5 questions are there. First question, write down the 3 characteristics of a prokaryotic cell. Just now we observed the presence of prokaryotic cell, example bacterial cell, on the interactive flat panel, and this prokaryotic cell consists of outer cell wall, and it is providing protection, and it is a protective sheet. It is made up of proteins, and below the cell wall we can see the presence of what, plasma membrane. So here prokaryotic cells, they are not having a definite nucleus, and also this is not covered by a nuclear membrane, and it consists of a single chromosome, and it consists of what other cell organelles like ribosome, and these ribosomes and also other cell organelles are not having membranes. So those are the characteristic feature generally we observe in case of prokaryotic cell. In case of bacterial cell, there is a locomotory organ, and that is called as flagellum. So these are the characteristic feature generally we observe in case of prokaryote. Example, bacteria. Next, second question. Mention any five components of a microscope. We observed 3D Nischals 3D lens application, and also there is a microscope structure given in our textbook, and microscope, compound microscope and also electron microscope, like that two microscope we discuss here. Compound microscope is also called as light microscope, and it is useful to magnify the specimen 4,000 times. So here now I am explaining the parts of a microscope. There you see the presence of eyepiece, and also body tube, and also revolving nose and stage. Revolving nose is having what? Objective lenses and handle and coarse adjustment and fine adjustment. These are the parts of a compound microscope. So many parts are there, and here you need to ask, you need to write only five components. And what are the two types of microscope? Just we discuss. Microscopes are of two types mentioned in our textbook, and they are compound microscope and also electron microscope. And compound microscope is also called a light microscope, and this microscope is useful to magnify the object 4,000 times. An electron microscope is a device, and that is a modified device, and it is a sophisticated also, and this electron microscope is using, that is electron beams, to magnify the object, and this can magnify the object 1 lakh time. So that is the difference between compound microscope and also electron microscope. And now you see, fourth question, how transportation takes place in bacterial cell. So bacterial cell is a prokaryote. It is not having a definite nucleus, and it is having what? Cell wall. And here cell wall is also useful certain substance to get in and certain substance to get out. And below the cell wall we can see the presence of plasma membrane, and the other name for plasma membrane is cell membrane. So in this way these two membranes are helpful to that is they are allowing certain substance to get in into the cell and certain substance to get out of the cell. So these are the two differences, and you are observing in case of prokaryotic cell, and these are useful for transportation. Now, and there is the last question, what is resolution of electron microscope? So electron microscope is useful to magnify the object 1 lakh times, and this microscope can is using what? Electron beams or rays for to magnify the object. So children, we discuss the five in-text question, and now we need to discuss what? Cell wall. So here cell wall is present in plant cell, also bacterial cell, and cell wall is absent in case of animal cells. And cell wall is made up of cellulose, and cell wall is made up of polysaccharides and also proteins, and it is providing rigidity, and it is a protecting, that is a layer, and below this cell wall, so we can see the presence of cell membrane. So here it is non-living, cell membrane is living, and that is the difference between cell wall and so cell membrane. Cell wall is non-living and cell membrane is living, and cell membrane act as a semi-permeable membrane, and cell wall also allows certain substances to get into the cell, and cell wall is giving rigidity, and also it is a protective layer, and it is protecting the inner components of cell. and that is the difference between cell wall and so cell membrane. Again, you see, cell wall is composed of cellulose and so it is permeable, and it separates the contents of the cell from the surrounding. So here below the cell wall there is cell membrane, and cell membrane is enclosing the inner component of the cell, and there are many cell organelles are floating present in the cytoplasm of a cell, and they are of many, and they are nucleus and plastids, chloroplast, ribosomes, lysosomes, endoplasmic reticulum, vacuoles, all these are called as cell organelles, and they are performing their own functions, and it gives shape. So here cell wall is giving shape to the cell. Particularly cell wall is present in case of only plant cell, also in prokaryote like bacteria, and it is present only in plant cell, but cell wall is also present in case of prokaryotes. So here in this chapter, that is cell structure and function, children, we discuss different types of cells based on the presence of nucleus, and they are prokaryotes and also eukaryotes. And also we discuss based on the number of cells, we discuss there are two types of organism, and they are unicellular, example amoeba, and also multicellular, and examples are many mammals, reptiles, and also birds. And also we discuss what are the cell components which are present in a cell. So they are: first one, nucleus, and nucleus consists of nuclear membrane and nucleoplasm, chromosome, and also gene. And it also consists of cytoplasm. It also consists of cell membrane. It also consists of cell wall. In addition to that, cytoplasm consists of cell organelles like chloroplast, Golgi complex, a lysosome, endoplasmic reticulum. Like that, many cell organelles are present in the cell, and they are performing their own functions. And also we discuss in text questions 5 and also answer. Thank you, children.